Here's a long one. Nothing but net. Oh, my goodness. Didn't see that coming. I'm diddly dee.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of All Nat, brought to you by OTS. I am your host, Natalie, but most people call me Nat. And today I'm back with, he might as well just soon be like a co-host of this show, Justin. He is my co-host of Golden Spaces, as you know, at the package JG. Is that right? On Twitter. Yeah, there you go. So follow him if you're not. But he's here to help me break down the Warriors Summer League, which if you follow me on Twitter or even Instagram, actually, you know that I was at Summer League and I met a lot of people and that was fun. So we'll talk about it. But I also watched some games, right? Which is somewhat of the purpose of Summer League. There's a lot of purposes of Summer League. So we'll talk about that. But I did watch some games, specifically the Warriors games. So we'll talk about what we've seen from some of our young guys. And let's also just talk about what's happened in free agency so far with respect to the Warriors, because there's a lot going on, but like with the Warriors specifically, and then just how maybe other free agency moves have, you know, affected or will affect the Warriors. So how does that sound, Justin? Cool with you?
That's good with me.
All right, let's get into it. So Summer League, look, as you guys can see, I'm wearing my night shirt. Had to represent. I flew back on a red eye this morning, so I'm actually pretty exhausted. Like I basically got off the plane and then I got back here and now I'm recording this episode with Justin. So I appreciate you for hopping on with me. Summer League was fun. You know, it was a new experience for me as a new content creator still / fan, right? So always a fan first. So it's I don't know how much like people know about Summer League, because I actually didn't know that much about it, like in terms of like what else happens there, you know. So but it is probably the most accessible like NBA players and like people around the NBA will be to you. I mean, it's just the most fascinating thing I've ever seen. I'm not someone who really gets starstruck, so it's not that, but it was really like, oh yeah, I could just walk up to XYZ player. There were so many of them that I saw that I didn't take pictures with or go over to, but like yesterday, like CJ walked like right next to, like literally right past me. Like I was walking into arena, he just like walked past me. What's the guy from the Grizzlies? The light-skinned one. The one who Dre said that Steph was containing. His mind is
Desmond Bane.
Desmond Bane. Yeah, it's just I saw him. He kind of looked like douchey the way that like he comes off. Like I saw someone like go over to him to try, and look, I get it, people might be approaching them like the whole time and they are humans and stuff like that, but like someone went over to try to like, you know, stop him, and like he just like kept walking. He didn't want to talk to them. Then his boy was like, he's going to the game, and I'm just like, bro, is it that serious? Like whatever. Like, come on, man. Like, I see like Dwayne Wade stopping and talking to people. Like, certainly you can, Desmond Bane. So, but let me not like, look, I'm not here bashing or spreading rumors about Desmond Bane. It was just my observation in that moment. He did not feel like talking to people. Terrence Mann like rolled by and like got in a car. Like, there was just like mad people. And so the pictures that I tweeted, I also met Festus Ezeli. I don't even think I tweeted that picture. I met Festus briefly. Ron Adams, like he was walking to the bathroom and I was like, Ron Adams. And he like walks over and he's like, hello. And I'm like, I'm a big fan. And I really am a big fan of Ron Adams, you know. Good thing. I don't know if he knows how much I bash Steve Kerr, but I am a fan of Ron Adams. And so he's like, where are you from? And I'm like, New York. And he asked me, I don't know why I can't remember what else he asked me, but he asked me another question. And I was like, yeah, no, I cover the team independently and I have a podcast. Like, you got to just let people know who you are. So
Yeah.
he's like, oh, okay. And so that was like basically it. And then I congratulated him on like his award, but he was a nice, guy.
He seems like a chill dude.
Yeah, he definitely was. Dikembe, that was like totally random. Like, I get on the air train after just landing in the airport, and like this Campbell like gets on the air train. Like what is going on? Like, why are you even taking the air train? So yeah, so I was just like, are my eyes deceiving me? Because no one else initially seemed to be reacting to him, right? And so I'm like, nah, maybe this is just like a look-alike. But I'm like, nah, man. So I'm just like staring at him, and he looks at me because like I'm probably like, why is this woman staring at me? So I was just like, do you mind if I take a picture? Because I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I was also exhausted myself, and I was sitting down, so I didn't feel like getting up to get in the picture. But I was like, can I take a picture of you? So he was like, yeah. And then he was with a woman, and like she was talking to me a lot because she liked my hair. So I talked to his companion more than him. But then like afterwards, people started like taking pictures with him. And then like when we got off the air train, like at the airport, like people just started going up to him and stuff like that. So that was like my welcome to Summer League moment. Like that was like the first thing that happened. And then the Jaylen Brown thing was hilarious because like literally we just got back to our hotel and we like pulled up and we like were walking like to go inside, and then like his car pulled up and all of a sudden out comes Jaylen Brown. And it was crazy because like when we were at the arena for the day, I was like, I kept looking like, is that Jaylen Brown? Like, I don't know why I had Jaylen Brown on my mind, but I just was like, I thought I was gonna see Jaylen Brown for some reason. So when I finally saw him, I was like, oh shit. I was like, I manifested this because I really thought I was gonna see you. He laughed. He was just like, you out here manifesting things? I was like, yep. So, but he was really nice. We were like, can we take a picture with you? He was like, yeah, sure. And he stopped, took a picture. You know, and then he was having an event that night. He did, I think, like on his socials, I saw him like put it up. I don't know exactly what it was after. I know like one person who attended, but it was mostly for players. But it was right downstairs in our hotel. I was like, how do I get into how do I get in there?
Yeah.
I didn't figure that out, but next time I'm gonna get in there.
Like, I manifested myself into this event. You gotta let me in. Like,
So overall, it was pretty cool. Dwayne Wade, he was I had went into like one of the Utah Jazz games and he was there. And my friend really is mad at me because I was gonna like at the end, like I was gonna take a picture of him. And like right when I was walking, like to do it, I bumped into someone I knew who I had to talk to. So we went outside and we were talking because it was like halftime. And then I came back and I spotted D Wade. He was like still like on the bench. So I'm like, she's like, my friend is texting me because she like Dwayne Wade is her favorite player. And she's like, oh my God, like, please like tell me every single thing that's happening. So I'm like, I got you. I'm like, get a picture. And also because like she had tweeted a long time ago, she's gonna be modeling like his like brands. And he responded and quoted her like with like, like the speaker emoji, like whatever that emoji is. So she's like, remind him like who I am. I was gonna do it. Like, I don't care. So I like have my eye on him the whole time. And then I take my eye off for 1 second to like look at my phone. Yo, and then he was gone. And I could not find him. I'm like, shit. Because I was literally like, I was like here and he was here. Like, that's how close we were. So it's really wild, like how I saw Joel Anthony. I saw Baron Davis. He's probably the only person that I was like disappointed I didn't get to talk to because I wanted to talk to him, but he was with people and it just felt really clear that I would have been like interrupting.
yeah.
But I wanted to talk to him because he had tweeted like at least within the last 2 months, it was fairly recent. And he was like, wanted to know about women content creators, like who create basketball content. And even though I responded in the thread, like, of course, he didn't reply to me. So I wanted to be like, hey, I'm one of those people. What's up? I'm at your service.
Facts.
So, but that didn't happen. So, and then I just like met up with like people who I already like knew, which is always cool to like meet people in person.
Yeah.
So, like my overall take on it, like just like if you just want to go as a fan, I think you should go. Like it's really accessible, like to the extent that you can get to Vegas, right? But like people think Vegas is really expensive, and I know being expensive is like a subjective thing, but there's so many deals right now to be in Vegas. Like deals on hotels. I really feel like you can get a reasonably priced like deal. Um, so yeah, like just go because like the games, it's not expensive to go, and you can actually even get tickets on the day of the games. And I think they charge like if you go in late at night where there's only like a handful of games left, then I think it's like cheaper. But like for the day to go to the games for the day, that's how they charge. They don't do like single games. It's like 50 something dollars. And then
Oh,
like you can
okay.
just like beat like that's
Yeah.
so each day. But so it's just a very accessible things for like fans. Like if you want to meet NBA players and be near them, it's like cool. You could, do that. So and then if you're someone who's like on the come up, I think it's good too. I definitely think it's better to be credentialed. And so that's my goal, right? Next
Mhm.
year, remember it, you're on today with me, Justin. So next year, this time, I will be credentialed.
Oh,
That's the
another manifestation right there.
another manifestation. Yes, that's what I'm gonna work on. I definitely think it would improve the experience, but I wouldn't like. I would still do this again. So it was definitely fun for me as a fan. Fun for me is just like wow. And then there's just all the little tea that you get. And like that's cool because people are starting to drop tea to me. So I feel like an insider. But there's also the tea that you get just by like observing things, like or people who like work in the hotel saying things and not knowing who's around and listening. So there's
Mhm.
lots of little things that I heard. I was like, oh, okay, is that what's happening? All right, let me keep it moving. So it's interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
definitely. I definitely we'll talk about that offline though, because I ain't gonna be telling nobody. Nah, I'm too rich. I ain't gonna be one of them people. But it was definitely, it was fun time. So I just want to share that little nugget with you guys about Summer League in case anyone was curious what it's about, what's going on. But let's get into the games now because there were for that summer league, I think the Warriors so far have played 3 games. I missed the first one because I think the first one was on the Friday because summer league started last Thursday. I didn't get out there till Saturday morning. Um, yeah, that's the other thing. If you're gonna go, it is a really long period because it's like it started on Thursday and goes through next weekend. But I really do think going in on the earlier end is better. Like
mhm.
I was told like to be there for the middle, and I kind of left in the middle. So maybe we'll see. Like because there were a couple people I knew coming in, like that just came in. But I do think being there for the opening weekend is like the better thing. Like people really seem to be out there for like the first couple of days. So I that was just my initial observation from my first one. So I missed that first game on Friday because I wasn't there yet, but I was there for the game on Sunday and I was there for the game yesterday where they acted like they didn't feel like playing basketball. So
Mhm.
there's been 3 games now so far. And yes, the yesterday's game was the first one where all 3 of the young guys played together. I think Quinn has played in all of them too,
Mhm.
Quindary, but not like heavy minutes all the time.
Right.
So, and then there's this McClung guy and there's Santos. Those are some of the names that have kind of like you've heard and people have been talking about. So I would love to get your thoughts, Justin, because first of all, I actually haven't been that tuned in with the TL, but from what I'm seeing, the timeline seems to be split on McClung and whether he can be of any value. And I have people telling me that they would prefer Chioza over him, and I think those people are crazy. But maybe I'm wrong. And then I see some people still bashing Wiseman.
Mhm.
And then there's some, like, I felt like Wiseman had like some good things that he showed, you know. I certainly don't see a reason to like bash him, and I see things that he needs to improve, but like this is his first this is his first basketball in like so many years. I feel like we need to manage expectations. That's sort of how I feel. um uh, you know, Moses kind of had like a really cold night in yesterday's game, and then got like a little bit better, started doing other things, attacking. I thought actually yesterday was one of Kuminga's better games. Like in the beginning too, he started off slow, but I thought he got better. But like in some of the other first couple of games I saw, I thought he was sort of, I don't know, maybe it was like a little bit too much isolation, you know, basketball for me. So those were just like my quick observations, because like I'm watching the games, but I'm also like talking and having conversations. So I'm
Mhm.
not as tuned into the games as I should be. Um, I thought Santos was like steady the whole time. I don't know if they're really considering him for like a two-way or to like you know, a camp invite to try to make the team, but he seemed to just be a smart player who did good things on the
Mhm.
court. And then McClung had his moments, but I know people felt like he was like looking to get his, you know, his own first and maybe not distributing the way he needed to. Um, but there's also like a part of me that understands like why players are playing like that, right? They're trying to make the team, so they're trying to show what they're capable of. I don't know enough about his background to know like, is he a player that will like buy in? But like if he were to even make the Warriors team, you're talking about a guy who's probably on a two-way, right? Like he's not gonna be like, you know, to me, he can handle, he can pass, he can actually score, shoot a little bit. To me, I feel like I would prefer that skill set over Chioza, who can get guys, I guess, into order, or a game manager. But I feel like that's what, you know, Chioza was. I feel like that's what Wanamaker was like. And I know that Kerr likes those guys, but those guys make me angry when they're on the court. And
Mhm.
like Chioza, like he really used to make me angry because he would just dribble the air out the ball and then like at the last minute like pass it for someone to do something. Like I didn't even see him doing that much organizing, to be honest. Like I didn't see the value in him. So I could see the value in a guy like a McClung. And also like there are other players that none of these guys may even make it. We don't know like who the Warriors are looking at. So
Right.
those were my high level thoughts. So like what, you give me like the breakdown now, please, on each of these guys, what you were seeing.
Okay. I'll start with the non like rookie warrior, like actually
Okay.
roster players. Mac, he's a player that was like highly touted in high school. If you look up his name on YouTube, he has a ton of like hoop mixtapes and stuff like that. Freak athlete, crazy dunks and stuff like that. He went to Georgetown. I actually seen him a few times because I live in DC, so I've seen him around a few times. But I think they invited him just because they know he's a player that can, that can actually hang out there in that type of environment. I'm not sure if they instructed them to, go out there and just play your game or go out there and try to set up the Warriors like young players or whatever the
Right.
case may be. But he's definitely out there, looking to get a job, whether it's with the Warriors or whether it's with a team that has a little bit more opportunity and space for him.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's just kind of like how the G League and Summer League kind of goes, right? It's just those guards that are just trying to break into the NBA, just kind of dominating everything and just not necessarily looking for bigs and stuff like that on the roll. So that's not really that wasn't something that I didn't expect. I think in this type of environment, Chioza might be a little bit better just because he would make it more of an effort to get Wiseman and Kaminga and Moody the ball
Now, when you
right
say in
away.
this environment, are you saying in a summer league environment or in general an environment like on the Warriors?
Um, in an environment in which they're trying to give reps to Wiseman, Kaminga, and Moody that isn't an actual NBA game. Um, I mean, like an actual, regular season or whatever type of game, Chios will probably be better because he's that type of guard that just defers to other players and sets other players up. Whereas McClung is a guy who's looking for his own shot. So in that circumstance, it's you end up with Wiseman only taking 6 shots or whatever in the game. You end up with Kaminga having to essentially bring the ball up for himself and then create at the top of the key, which might not be his strong suit at this point in his career.
And do you think Mac is the kind of guy like you're not going to be able to get him to buy in and like distribute more? Like he just is who he is.
I think if they say, hey, if you do this, we're going to sign you, he would do it. You know what I mean? But I think he's more so trying to showcase his best attributes, which is his athleticism and his creativity with the ball. So I mean, he was with the Lakers on a 10-day last year. He's probably just like going to be in that kind of like fringe NBA player type of space for a little bit before he can, get another opportunity somewhere, potentially with the Warriors in a two-way. Right now, the Warriors have Lester Quinones signed on a two-way, but as if people don't know, you can kind of remove a two-way contract like almost whenever you want, and just replace it with another player. So he's not necessarily sticking in that spot as of right now. Uh, as far as Guy Santos, I think he's still under contract with his team in Brazil, so he would have to be bought out from them to be brought into the NBA and potentially on a two-way, whatever the case may be. So I think he's more so like a draft and stash type of deal, kind of like Justin and Jessup, but I don't think they'll ever bring Jessup up. He doesn't look great.
No.
Game looks a little bit too fast, a little bit too athletic for him. And he's not dead eye of a shooter enough for him to, be like one of those Duncan Robinson types where it's just game might be too fast, but he can still play. Getting into like, Wiseman and Kuminga and Moody, I think everyone can agree that Moody's looked the most, calm, steady, consistent out of them. You can see the high-end talent that Kuminga and Wiseman bring just with their size and their athletic ability. Kuminga he's so strong for his size. He's so agile. At 6'8", 6'9", he moves like a small player, right? So that's why they're deploying him at point of attack on defense. He's picking up guys 94 feet. He's guarding guys like J.D. Davison, who is one of the freakiest athletes potentially in this rookie class coming up. And he's, just kind of just sticking with him the whole time. So you can see the upside for these guys, but you can also see that they're super young. They make a few mistakes here and there that you're just kind of like, why did you even think of doing that type of thing?
Right.
But they're 19, 20, 21 years old. So you can only expect that, especially when they haven't been in an environment like a Houston or a Memphis or these other places where young guys are expected to play 25, 30 minutes a game and play 60, 70 games in their rookie season. So, you know what to expect, and you just kind of look for the little things they can potentially improve on, like Wiseman being a little bit more physical. I think that's the main thing he should be focusing on right now, just being able to, assert his dominance as far as his size, because he is one of the biggest players in the NBA, right? He's over 7 foot. He has massive arms. His shoulders are broad, and he's explosive. So he can kind of use that to his advantage. But it seems like sometimes he's a little bit too focused on what's going to happen next. Maybe he's trying to anticipate something, and the play passes him by. The opportunity to assert himself passes him by. But then he'll have a moment out of nowhere where he just throws somebody out the way, grabs a rebound, and puts it back and dunks it. It's like, you can do that every play.
That more every time.
You know what I mean? Like, you can do that pretty much every play in this environment. Nobody can stop you. And with Kuminga, it's not necessarily the opposite, but you see him asserting his physical dominance a lot more. Like, he's trying to get to the rim, barrel through people. He's trying to use his speed and his athleticism and strength and go through people. But you kind of want to bring him back down a little bit and say, hey, you probably could have passed and cut. You probably could have did a little bit more off the ball. You know what I mean? You don't have to play hero ball and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's just those two guys getting a lot more reps and experience and understanding what's going to stand out for them in these next 1 to 2 to 3 years as players, a part of the team. But you can see why, people are high on them in year 4, 5, 6 of their career and the ceiling they can potentially reach.
Right. And one would imagine that when they're playing on the floor with guys like Steph and Dre and just like smarter players and better players, they'll look better in general. So I think that's what my guess is Warriors management is banking on, to like say that they can still help and contribute it, because they'll be a little bit more contained in those settings.
Yeah. And it's weird because Summer League is an environment that they're going to be put in positions where they will never be put in. Well, not never, but they won't be put in with the main team. Like, you're not going to ask Kuminga to bring the ball up when he's playing with the main guys. You're not going to ask Wiseman to have a post up isolation, stuff like that. So it's you kind of like, you got to take what you see with a grain of salt. Like, you got to understand what the environment is, and it's going to be very, very different from what the regular season is and the playoffs is with this team. Understanding Wiseman's going to get the ball in a lot more advantageous situations. Steph's going to draw two people, Clay is going to draw two people, Draymond is going to be able to give those connected passes better than anybody in the summer league can. So just understanding that their roles are going to be a lot smaller, but also keeping in mind that they're young players, and their mind might be, I want to have a bigger role. You know what I mean? So hopefully having guys around, like potentially bringing Andre back, and just the overall vets of the team, just kind of making sure that they understand the bigger picture, is going to be huge for them in their development.
What did you think of Quinn? Do you think he's going to get a roster spot?
I think I think he's an NBA player for sure. I tweeted probably the other day or a week ago or so that he's GP2 light. People kind of like, there's some people like, yeah, some people like, relax.
I think he is too.
I think he is too. GP2 is obviously a nuclear player, and what he does, his skill set, he's the best player in the league at what he does. But the skill set itself, Quindary has the same skill set, right? Being able to pick guys up, point of attack, 94 feet.
And I think Quinn is maybe a little bit of a better offensive player.
Yeah, and what he does well, he's better at the things that GP2 doesn't do well, like shooting the ball, creating off the dribble for himself. He's a good finisher inside. GP2 is like 75-80% at the rim. So GP2 has him in that aspect. He's a little bit more explosive of an athlete, but Quindary has like a 6'9", 6'10" wingspan or something like that.
And he'll get more opportunities though to finish at the rim, so that percentage could,
it can
go up
and skyrocket for sure. I think he should.
He's really smart. Like, he always knows when to cut, like where to rebound. He just knows where to be on the court. Like, that's what I've observed.
Exactly. He's like a Warriors player. Those guys that just understand the read and react, understand how to cut off the ball on both sides of the ball, understanding rotations, and because the Warriors defense can be complex for a lot of people, and I think he'll fit right in. And we saw a few times in the regular season last year that he fits right in. So yeah, I think he makes the roster. I would like to see the Warriors add one or two more front court veterans.
I agree.
Kind of,
who could those be? Based on what you see that's left available in the market.
Some names that's been thrown around is like Juancho Hernan-Gomez or Bo Cruz that we've seen in the movie Hustle. He's a guy that can kind of stretch the floor a little bit, physical, 6'9"-ish, defender type, good role player. He played for the Celtics last year. I don't think he finished the season for them, but he's decent. He can slide in there. Markieff is another guy that's still available. He had the injury last year after the tussle with Jokic, but if he can get his health back in order, he's a guy that can stretch the floor, be physical inside, grab some rebounds. A lot of Warriors fans don't like this guy, but Blake Griffin is another guy, just big body, physical, just somebody that can eat 10 minutes a game in the regular season to kind of save Dre's legs, save Loon's legs, stuff like that.
And sometimes he shoots well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the Warriors system, he's going to shoot wide open. So I anticipate he'll shoot a lot better. And he can pass too. So he's another guy who's pretty smart. His body's been kind of failing him over the years, but I think if they can,
they can manage him. We know that they know how to manage players.
Exactly.
And their bodies.
Yeah. So I think adding one of those guys would go a long way. And I think Quindary should probably get one of those other three spots as well.
Okay. So yeah, they need to get two more vets, but I don't know who they're getting. With the addition of Dante, do you still think Patrick Beverley would be a fit? Because I still see people talking about him, and I kind of I don't know if we need another guard.
He'd be he wouldn't be filling a need at this point. He would just be making the Warriors' strengths even better, right? I think the Warriors' defense was so good last year because their point of attack and their rotations were preventing people from getting shots at the rim, right? It's how they pretty much won a championship without a legit rim protector, right? Draymond used to be that, but he's aged. He doesn't have the vertical, ability that he used to have, especially after that back injury. So they just said, okay, we can't protect the rim the same way, but we can just make sure you can't get to the rim at all by just staying in front of you the whole time. So I think adding a guy like Patrick Beverly, having the guys they already have and Dante DiVincenzo and even maybe Quindary, they'll have just as strong of a perimeter group as they had last year, and they'll be able to just keep people out of the paint.
Okay. What do you think about like some of the other, and we don't need to get into them in detail, but I guess what my question actually is have there been any moves around the league that you've seen that make you say like this team can really threaten the Warriors? Not saying like the Warriors are unbeatable, because like I think the Clippers are one of those teams in the West, but like are there other teams that you're just like, nah, man, like they are just now on paper better than the Warriors and like it's going to be an issue?
I wouldn't say that. I feel like as long as your main guys are still there, which they are for the Warriors, the top 5 or 6 players are still in the Warriors, then that core can play against any other team's core. But as far as the top to bottom roster, obviously Boston got a lot better by adding Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari. They essentially ran out a rotation of like 7 or 8 players through the entire playoffs. So you can see how that caught up with them, getting into the finals, even though it didn't affect their shooting. It kind of affected, their defensive
Right.
rotations might have been a little bit slower. Just it was just a war of attrition for them. So just adding another player like Brogdon, who's another body that they can add, also another ball handler that kind of slows down their offense when need be, because they got into some issues getting some good shots generated. And then Gallinari is a guy who can add a little bit more offense, and then he's another playable player that they have that can save some other guys' legs. So Boston for sure. Other than that, I don't think any teams added players that make me say, okay, they can give the Warriors some issues, but players that were injured last year that are going to be healthy this year. Obviously, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Bucks. They're good. They're going to get Chris Middleton back. So those 3 teams stand out, as well as just being able to add their own guys back from injury.
But are the Nuggets going to be a good defensive team?
I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be kind of like Dallas was last year, where it's like they can defend certain matchups. Their numbers are going to look good in the regular season just by, just the regular season. But when it gets to a playoff series, teams are going to put Michael Porter Jr. and Jokic and Jamal Murray in the pick and roll time after time after time again. And if they cannot defend that, I don't think the guys that they added can make up for that. I don't think KCP and Bruce Brown can make up for the issues that you're presented when you put those guys in pick and roll. So
Now, if Kyrie were to go to the Lakers, would you be worried about the Lakers?
Worried? No, I would definitely acknowledge them as a contender at that point, given Kyrie and AD play. I mean, really, Kyrie, AD, and LeBron, all of them have had, whether it be injury issues or it's just like the off the court political issues that kept them from playing a lot of games. So if they can play most of the season to get their chemistry together, develop playoff rotations, and they go into the playoffs healthy, then I can acknowledge them as a team that can be a threat for sure. You give LeBron another ISO scorer in Kyrie, and then LeBron and AD, 2 of the freakiest players in the NBA as far as what they can do on both ends of the court. So they will always be a threat for sure. But I wouldn't say that they would be a team that I would pick to beat the Warriors for sure. I wouldn't.
And what about Kevin Durant to the Suns?
If he goes to the Suns and they're able to keep Booker and Chris Paul, I still wouldn't pick them to beat the Warriors. I think their issues will still be the same, right?
Because they're going to lose some of their wing depth, though, right? Like
right.
in that. Okay.
Right. Let me rephrase that. I don't think their issues would be the same, but they will have the same ceiling as a team because they will have some issue, like a glaring issue, right? Whereas last year, they had a great defense and they had a good floor of Chris Paul and Devin Booker generating offense, but they did not have that second gear of offense that can be generated once those guys kind of get shut down a little bit. They will be able to get that if they add Kevin Durant, but they would lose a lot on the defensive end if they lost Aiden and Bridges and Cam Johnson and Jay Crowder and all those guys too. So if you just take Kevin Durant and put him on the Suns right now without losing anybody, then for sure they'd be a really, really good team. Potentially could beat the Warriors, but if in a trade scenario, I can't see them making up that gap.
Okay.
Especially as CP3 is aging.
Yeah, I'm anxious to just see how the Warriors are going to fill out the rest of the roster. Because I just want to know. I want to be able to kind of talk about them, like and like better,
Yeah,
and it's
for
hard
sure.
because we just don't know what they're gonna do. And I feel like the Warriors in some way always kind of surprise a little bit or do things a little delayed, right? I remember like it didn't really work out that well, but like all of a sudden we got DeMarcus Cousins and no one saw that coming. And then like free agency started, it seemed like everyone was getting picked up. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, Otto Porter. And then like you kind of felt a little bit better,
Mhm.
and then like this year, that I didn't freak out this year, but that's how people were like, nothing's happening. And then
Mhm.
Dante got signed, so like they just kind of come out of nowhere with people. I don't know if there's potential buyout candidates anywhere. So, but I would like the roster to be filled out and completed. So I'm looking forward to that happening. So I hear that Stephen Curry is the second best player since Jordan, or second only to Jordan. That's what the streets are saying, Justin.
Man, streets don't lie too much either.
Uh,
That's what the streets are saying.
but
Shout out to Bobby.
what did you think about that Bobby Marks take? Because it's so funny that I literally was having a conversation with one of my girls, and one of the hoopstresses, actually, I don't know if you know her, Malika, but we were actually on the phone and we were because she's a Nets, she like covers the Nets and she's a Nets person. So she also covers the WNBA for the hoopstresses. And so like she's just so distraught about like her Nets, like just
Hey,
right, understandably. And then we just started talking about the Warriors and stuff and other things. And we were talking about, she's like, I really think like Steph can get to like 6 or 7. Like that's what she's saying to me, is like, and that's fan. I was just like, yeah, I think if Steph didn't lose those 2 years, I really thought 7 was possible. I don't think it's impossible, but it's a lot harder losing those 2 seasons.
yeah.
But I think 5 is very possible, and I think 6 is reasonably possible. And just kind of talking about like his legacy and what it would be and all this stuff. And I'm just like, people don't listen when Steph talks. Like, that's why all this other shit, like Steph wants to be in those conversations. Like, he's very aware of his legacy. He's very aware of like how things are remembered, which is why I think a lot of this stuff doesn't bother him, because he's been around so much. He knows, like, when Jordan won his first ring, Lakers players were hurt, key guys. No one talks about that. They just say like Jordan beat the Showtime Lakers. Like,
Right.
no one's gonna remember that shit, right? So he understands that, right? And but like he said enough to let you know that he wants to be up there in the pantheon. Like, he wants to be discussed in those conversations. So he's gonna do what needs to be done, to make that happen. And I think people are very, it always annoys me when people say, oh, Steph doesn't care about these things. Yes, he does. Yes,
Right.
he does. Like, because he doesn't put it out there like LeBron and Kevin Durant, don't think it doesn't matter to him.
And,
It
and
does.
you don't reach the heights that he has reached without having that competitive
Exactly.
desire in your, burning inside you. He has a maniacal work ethic for a reason, because he wants to be the best that he can possibly be.
Yeah.
And he knows that the best that he can possibly be is up there with those guys.
Yes.
So it doesn't even make sense to say that he doesn't care about the stuff. He's just, he's a guy that he's not very rah about it. And he's not very petty in the sense of, trying to bring other people down and doing the other weird stuff that a lot of other stars would do.
Right.
But he definitely wants to be up there.
He does. And so, like, I've always said this, because I've said before, I've had this conversation. Jay Thompson, another person who people may see on Twitter, I said to her, I was like, I think when Steph's career is said and done, he's gonna finish on Rushmore. I think he's like, it'll be like universally accepted that he's a top 5 player all time, or mostly accepted by the time his career is done. I've said that before. And I remember she thought that was a spicy take. And I'm like, I don't think it is. And it's not that she didn't think that it was possible. She didn't think that like people would accept that because of like what she sees. I'm like, he's gonna make it so that it won't matter. Like it's just like his resume is gonna be like undeniable. So I've always said that, but I've also said to people, I was like, listen, I watched a lot of basketball, and he is the second best player I've seen since Jordan. And like with my eyes, he has to do the resume, right? Like, so I still don't have him as second yet, but I was just like, after Jordan, he is the player that I've seen that I'm just like, wow, he's the second best to me. So when Bobby Marks said that, I was like, oh, people are starting to see the vision. They're starting to see the vision. But I wanted to know what your thoughts were on it. Because we've kind of talked about all-time rankings before and stuff, and we differ a little bit, in particular with respect to LeBron. But you know, I know that you think Steph, like you're like, there's not 5 guys better than Steph. So I know you think he's like up there.
For sure. And like you said, the resume has to, just be up just a little bit to legitimize, I guess, the claim that he's the best since Jordan and stuff like that. But like I said before, those guys that are all there, like as players alone, if you just look at, hey, 5-year peak or whatever the case may be, it's not a lot of separation between those guys. Like,
no.
Yeah, especially if you look at, say, what is LeBron's peak? I don't know, like 2013, his first ring to his last ring. Is that his peak? Over that period, you can say Steph has been just as good. You know what I mean? Other than the first 2 Miami rings before Steph stepped into superstardom. From Steph's first MVP to present, you can make a legitimate argument that he's been the best player in the league over that stretch. LeBron James has played all of that stretch in his prime. So if you can say that he's been just as good or right there with LeBron, who many consider to be the greatest of all time, then why can't Steph be up there with those guys?
This is why I just always laugh at, like, I listen, of all people, LeBron fans ain't gonna tell me who I can consider, because they were saying that man was second best and with Jordan before he even got any of that shit.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like we're talking about this and we're still saying like Steph has to, do some things, get like, right. And then they're still saying like, but he still can't be in that conversation. Fuck out of here. Like, y'all can kiss my ass. So, right. That group is not going to be the one to tell me anything. But I don't understand. Like, when I hear people still saying like Steph is like for sure top 15, I'm like, I can't even take you seriously. Like, if you're saying anything outside of the top 10, like, we're not in those discussions anymore. Yeah. There are not 14 guys who have better resumes than Steph. Like, what are you telling me right now? It is right. Insanity for you to be looking at a player of his, like, if he was a few inches taller, you would not be saying nothing about no fucking top 15. Like, shut up.
Or a few shades darker.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, but I was trying not to go there today.
I mean, I've had people legitimately tell me they don't like Steph because he didn't come from a humble background, because he didn't grow up. Right. It's like, that's just the weirdest thing ever to me. But
I mean, what's his name? What? Not Steven Jackson, the other one who does all the smoke.
Matt Barnes.
Yeah. I mean, he said like, yeah, when Steph came around, like, like, he came from like a 2-parent household, or he mentioned something about like, I was just like, what? Like, this is crazy to me.
It's funny because Kobe did, right? I'm pretty sure Kobe's fan. Yeah, his dad was in the NBA, so he wasn't poor growing up. Like,
no, like, not at all. I know the area Kobe came from because I went to school in that area, and I know people like, because Kobe and I are like, he's a few years older than, well, he was a few years older than me, but like I was in school in college. I went to school in Philly, and like there were people in school with me who like were his classmates. So like I always kind of felt like I knew Kobe, because like I knew a lot of people like around him in the area. That Marion, whatever it's called, Upper Marion, whatever it is, like that area is a very nice area of Pennsylvania. And Kyrie's another one I laugh at. Like, Kyrie's not from the hood. His father, his people are, but Kyrie did not grow up in the hood. Like, no matter how he plays Rucker Park basketball, like that's why I laugh when people are like, and even Russ grew up like in a nice family environment. Like, Paul George. I mean, people clown him for other things, but I'm just saying, like this thing y'all have against Steph, like he's not the only guy.
Right.
It's kind of like the Grant Hill thing, but like 10 times more. You know, like when the Michigan guys didn't like Grant Hill because he went to Duke and all that shit. I don't know if you remember that back in the day. But he kind of got that a little bit.
Yeah. With the he's talking about with the Fab Five.
Yeah. All right, Justin, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for hopping on with me. I definitely am gonna be tapping into you again as I put out episodes over the summer. But guys, thank you for tuning in. Remember that over the off seasons, I shouldn't just say summer, episodes will be coming more like every other week, right? So tune in, but it's just going to be on a different frequency. But unless something happens, and if something happens, we have you covered on All Nat and also on Golden Spaces on Twitter. So we will be around, but like we're not just going to come on. Like, when there's something to discuss, y'all will hear from us, right? So until next time, continue to enjoy this Warriors championship. Justin, thank you. All right, take care.